What's up, beautiful people? It's your boy Judeo, and I'm back again with a new video. So today we're bringing another video by Sowell, and this video is going to answer a question that a lot of us have in mind. If you notice, when people speak about wealth, they always say Asians are the richest. Or if you live in a city like Vancouver in Canada, if you see a big house, it's almost automatic to assume it's owned by an Asian. You know, people say Asians are very successful, especially the Chinese. So in this video, we're going to be seeing Sowell explain the real reasons why Asians are more successful than Westerners. I'm ready for this one. I'm excited. Hopefully we can learn a thing or two. So without wasting your time, let's get to it.
Again, I'm quoting you. Most black children were being raised in two-parent families in 1960. 30 years after the liberal welfare state, the great majority of black children were being raised by single parents.
Yes.
How does that, by the way, we should note that Patrick Moynihan publishes the Moynihan Report in 1965.
Yes.
And he's alarmed because the illegitimacy rate among black families is 25% then. Now, among whites, it's over a third.
Yes.
Hispanics, it's over half. And among African Americans, it's over 70%. What's going on there?
Well, this is, again, this too, you find the same thing in Britain, you find it in France, in Norway, you find it in the Western world. In fact,
The dissolution of the family structure.
Oh yeah, there are any number of Western nations where 40% of the children are raised with only one parent.
Right.
At the extremes, compared to Asian countries, at the extremes, Iceland, it's 2 out of 3 children born are raised in a single-parent home.
2 out of 3. That's very, very high.
South Korea, it's 1 out of 66.
Wow.
Korea is 1 out of 66. Iceland 2 out of 3. Korea 1 out of 66.
Wow. And so, what? That's the welfare state? What?
Yes,
it is.
Oh, you're paying. You're creating a situation where if the first of all, you're creating a situation where if the man stays there, the government will not give the woman welfare. And if he leaves, it will. Mm-hmm. And so they're paying. When you pay people not to get married, more people don't get married.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Candace Owen spoke on this thing, which got her a lot of criticism because she said welfare is not helping the black community. Instead, it's breaking the black community. And black people did not like it. But I don't think she said anything wrong because she's right. Sowell said it even before her.
So what would have happened if Lyndon Johnson, instead of becoming a liberal, had remained a crusty, tough, skeptical Texas conservative,
yes,
which is certainly the way he started his career. If Lyndon Johnson had embraced the constrained vision, instead of instituting the war on poverty and the Great Society and so forth, what would the country look like today?
A lot better. You would not have the same rates for crime and so on. Because, you see, you can't have a welfare state in a democratic country unless you first have a welfare state vision. And when you buy all the assumptions of that vision, then you're buying a lot of trouble. One of the episodes I think epitomized it was in France in this case, that there were knife attacks by various people from North Africa against Chinese people in some suburb of Paris. And one of the things that the attackers said, that why are you attacking the Chinese? And it wasn't because of anything the Chinese had done to them. He said, they have nice clothes and big cars. That's not fair. I mean, that's...
Just having nice clothes and big cars is not fair. So because of that, you have to attack the Chinese.
Egalitarianism.
Honestly, Nigerians are also experiencing that in some parts of Africa where they are trying to fight Nigerians because we tend to be more successful in their country. I mean, that's another story, but it's happening to Nigerians too.
As a philosophy is one thing, but the actual consequences of it mean things like resenting other people's good fortune.
Right. All right. So one response to the gap, again, I return to this gap between African Americans and other Americans, affirmative action.
Yes.
Which brings us back to your alma mater, Harvard. According to
I'll never live it down.
You'll never live it down. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You once told me that the principal benefit of a Harvard degree was never again having to be impressed by anybody who had a Harvard degree. Is that right?
Absolutely.
All right. So these are figures that were published in the Harvard Crimson, the student newspaper. In the Harvard class of 2019, these are the kids who will be graduating next June, The average SAT score for black students was 2149. By the way, these are all good scores, but for black students, 2149, white students, 2218, Asian students, 2300. Well, now that must be reasonable because it's taking place at Harvard, the seat of reason.
Well, that wasn't quite how I described it when I was there.
How did you describe
Action.
it? Tell us.
Is that we ought not to be doing this?
You know, there are various laws and policies that benefit one group at the expense of another. But I think affirmative action has the distinction of being one that it harms everybody, though in different ways. And so
the expression on his face, like, here we go again. Explain yourself, bro.
There's a lot of evidence that there are black kids who have all the qualifications to be successes in college, who nevertheless are failures because they are systematically mismatched with institutions whose standards they don't meet, even though they may meet the standards of 80 or 90% of the colleges in America. I remember first aware of this when I was teaching at Cornell, and I found that half the black students at Cornell were on some kind of academic probation. And so I went over to the administration building and looked up the SATs of these students. The average black student at Cornell at that time scored at the 75th percentile.
Which is pretty darn good.
Yes. And so that means that in most colleges in this country, they would have no trouble, and many of them would be on the dean's list. But at Cornell, the average liberal arts student at that time was in the 99th percentile. And when you're teaching the students like that, you teach at a pace that most people of any race cannot keep up with. And it was always complained that I was assigning all kinds of reading, but heck, I'm teaching kids who are in the top 1%. They can keep up with the reading that I'm assigning.
So Cornell was taking very talented black kids and spending 4 years teaching them to feel inadequate.
Yes, and succeeding at that.
That was so well. You know, lots of people disagree him. I had someone in the comment section say he's a big propagandist. I don't know what you guys think on that, but from what he's saying, I feel like he's made certain points, starting from the family one, where he spoke about welfare. At this point, we should be able to all come to an agreement that welfare doesn't really do anybody any good, because if you're paying the woman when the husband leaves, then the husband might as well leave so you can pay her. So it's not doing the family good, you know? So the child is being raised without a father or without a family structure, which affects the success of the family. And then to the SAT and the exam structure he spoke about, I don't really have a lot of knowledge in that, but let me know what you guys think. Maybe somebody might be able to educate me on that and let me know or enlighten me better on the topic. But I feel like from his explanation, he makes a lot of sense, you know, he makes a lot of sense. I might agree with him. In fact, I agree with him until somebody is able to convince me otherwise. That being said, it's the end of this video. Let me know your thoughts. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and please like this video so more people can see it. Have a very wonderful day. Peace.